One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. An inextinguishable desire to destroy, a deep down sensation of letting oneself go, the exercise of physical force so as to inflict injury or cause damage. Many filmmakers and game directors have made their own version of what would violence look like on screen. Throughout the history of cinema and video games, violence has been expressed in different ways and levels. The technological evolution acquiesced the artists to figure out creative ways to make their films or games more violent. Now, some of you guys might be asking, why am I comparing between two different mediums? The main reason why I'm doing this is because of the noticeable shift in the gaming industry that is fixated on the story aspect. There are some games that came out these past couple of years and they actually look and feel like a movie. And for most people, integrating a well-written story in a game is an essential part of their gaming experience. Comparing the violence aspect between the two mediums is going to be based on 3 elements: story, presentation, and timing. Now let's start with, what do films and games have in common in terms of showing violence? Fearless demigod roaming ancient Greece and brutally killing other gods in an attempt to avenge his dead family. The God of War franchise is known for its gore, and it demonstrated the full capacity of physical violence. And if you follow the series of Ragnarok, you know that there are some moments where you go, how many times is this dude gonna die? He gets trick-shotted by, apparently plays Ares, gets a big old column through his chest, and gets resurrected. Duh. The story element magnifies violent aspect. And the most important thing is the people's reaction.
No? Oh, no.
Adding context amplified our reaction towards those vicious scenes. Mourning the loss of his dead parents, Bruce Wayne swore the oath of not letting any kid go through what he's been through. I can feel the wrath behind the mask. It's personal for him. He fights criminals like they were responsible for taking the most precious thing he had. Then appears another broken orphan, a man wanting to inflict the two well-known types of violence: emotional violence and physical violence. And most likely, it's been given to him. Using threats and manipulating the stories of Bruce's dad to gain control and to set the fear in the heart of the bad. It's a never-ending cycle of violence. Whether it's going to be sexual violence, spiritual violence, verbal violence, neglect. This film is the best example of violence with a deeper meaning behind it. And not because I'm biased. There are some areas where you can find the parallel between the two mediums, and that's in telling stories. It always starts with a simple idea, getting revenge, and it gradually builds up to a field of expressing different violent behaviors that is backed up with love, revenge, and fear. And some movies start with these ideas.
It's a girl.
It's ass. And to put it simple, in movies we watch this. In games we do this. Are we good now? On the same page? Good. Now here's an important question. Who's more brutal, films or games? Because a game like this doesn't really give you a good reason to show violence, you know? But when you think about it, does context matter when showing a violent scene? The first ever appearance of violence on the screen was in 1903 in a film called The Great Train Robbery. Since the film has robbery in its name, might as well show us a little bit of a meek mook action, you know? In 1993, a game came out called Mortal Kombat. It adapted that realistic fighting style, and there's one thing that made that game satisfying to play for people.
Okay, that was pretty cool.
And of course, there were other games before the MK game that grinded the people's gear, like Custer's Revenge. I bet you can tell how hard the game is. It's because this dude is hard. And that's the second type of violence, sexual violence. There you go. And as the two mediums grew by time, evolving every stage of the creative process and forging new ways to shock the people and initiating that interest, the film industry and the video industry were growing faster every year, with films mostly relying on special effects creating these jaw-dropping violent scenes. Whether it be explosions, disturbing gory horror scenes, it just kept getting better, carving a path where games followed. Throughout the years, both industries shifted their approach of showing violence on the screen. With each focusing on a certain way of presenting, they decided to give this ferocious act a deeper meaning. I want to talk about Fletcher and the emotional abuse he inflicted on Andrew, pushing him to the absolute limit and breaking him down emotionally, desperately seeking the next Charlie Parker. In that journey, he leaned into something that can be considered as emotional violence. And that kind of violence can leave long-term wounds that could never be healed. Films have the ability to show violence in the performances, adding these little details that cannot be replicated. That type of violence most likely can be found in films and not games. Some games might manage to deliver a little bit, but the majority don't. A game like Metal Gear Solid 3 demonstrated almost the same thing by showing an interesting combination between multiple types of violence. And it was the Sorrow boss fight, reminding Snake of the lives he took away, the soldiers he could have just avoided, letting him hear the sadness and agony those people went through. One of the most iconic moments in gaming history. Metal Gear brought the one thing that caught our eyes in films, and that is the beauty of storytelling. The beauty of giving deeper reasoning behind certain actions. What makes video games special is that we get to physically interact with the world around us. That's why we can feel the impact of any event, because we're the one holding the steering wheel, and we can live with those characters longer to see every part of them. And I know sometimes I just want to see two people fighting to the death. No reason at all. Game, movie, I don't care. I'm taking his head off. And to answer my question if having context matters, but here's what I think. Context matters, but at the same time, it doesn't. Adding context and opening the possibility for exploring other types of violence that are backed up with reasoning can achieve what most filmmakers and game directors are looking for. And that is the three essential reactions: grossed out, entertained, getting emotional. And sometimes it might be a combination of the three. I got a bit curious about the human nature and started asking myself, are we born to be violent? Is it our primitive reflexes that got messed up through the years because our environment changed? Or is it a mix of nature and nurture? The two mediums will explore and create fascinating characters, broken characters, enduring every type of violence. As we watch them interact with the world, there's a lot of films that illustrated certain types of violence and made masterpieces. That also goes for games using an amalgamation of types of violence to elicit extreme emotions from the fans. The idea of humans being born with deep aggression within is amazing, and we've seen a lot of characters that showed us that part of humanity. And in this video, I'll show you the most violent role Tom Holland played. Click it. It won't disappoint, I swear to God. Click it.